Senate Finance Committee will come to order. Welcome, members. It's March 23rd, 2022, Wednesday, and we have 3 bills on the agenda. Senator Ruud, House File 2819. And Mr. Mueller, Mr. Meyer, please come on up. Welcome to the committee, Senator Ruud.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Senate File 3063 is the snowmobile violation fee increase. It's really a very simple bill. You all are aware of the economic impact of snowmobiling in the state of Minnesota. And the snowmobile clubs and the DNR and local units of government have done a really good job of telling people to stay on the trails with signage and education and public service announcements, and they still are having a problem with people staying on the trails, so they've come to us to help and for help. So what we have here today is we are increasing the fines on line 1.2, 1.21, and 1.22, or 2.1, excuse me. And so it's really very simple. These have not been increased in many years in its time, and the groups have asked us to help them keep people on the trails. And that's
Thank you, Senator Ruud. For the record, we do have a quorum. Before I turn to Mr. Mueller and Mr. Meyer, Assistant Commissioner Meyer, I do want to turn to Mr. Bodden, because before you members, we do have House File 2819, and there is a couple changes there in that House file. Mr. Bodden.
Madam Chair and members, so the procedural position of this bill is a little unusual in that the House file was amended after it was sent to the Senate. It was amended under Rule 45 and placed on general orders. The Rule 45 amendment is intended and works to make the House file identical to the language in the Senate file as it had been amended. There was one small amendment made to the Senate file that is not included in the text of the House file that you see before you, because this is not an unofficial engrossment. And if members can track with me, I can explain that on page 1, line 17, the phrase trespass provisions under was deleted. That's the difference between the House file and the Senate file. Again, on page 1, line 17 of House file 2819, the Senate language deleted the phrase trespass provisions under. Those were amendments made in the Civil Law Committee.
the House file. Thank you.
I just want to make that clear to members. That's the text you'll be working from today.
Thank you, Mr. Bodden. Any questions on that? Okay. Yes, Senator Kiffmeyer.
Just to be clear then, are we working on lining up the language of this bill to match the House? Is that kind of, in this committee, that's what we're kind of working on?
Mr. Bodden.
Madam Chair and Senator Kiffmeyer,
Or considering it?
the difficulty here is that an unofficial engrossment of House File 2819 has not been prepared. So I'm explaining to you, in effect, the language that the Senate has, the action the Senate has already taken to amend House File 2819. The text that you see here in House File 2819 is identical to the Senate file, with the exception of the amendment that I provided to you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Kiffmeyer. So, yes, Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm wondering if Mr. Bodden could explain the impact of that change.
Mr. Bodden.
Madam Chair and Senator Pratt, I think it's really purely technical. The reference is the statutory references are the same. So it's any violation under 84.90 or 97B001 would be covered. So that's the way I understand it.
Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Bodden, I'm trying to look those references up real quick, but are there more than just trespassing violations in those statutes? And Senator Ruud, was this specifically meant for trespassing?
Mr. Bodden.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair and Senator Pratt, I'm going to have to take a moment to check those references for you.
Mr. Stanley, could you please come up?
Madam Chair, members, good morning. The statutes in question contain a number of provisions that relate to what we would consider trespass, but at least one of them, 97B.001, if I'm remembering correctly, doesn't use the word trespass. And so the way that the language reads with the phrase in that Mr. Botter noted was deleted by the Senate, it raised an ambiguity about which portions or whether the entire section could give rise to a violation. And so by deleting trespass provisions under, you've made it clear that the issue that can give rise to a civil citation is a violation of any part of those statutes.
Okay, Senator Pratt, good? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stanley. Okay, before we go to our Deputy Commissioner, we'll go to Mr. Mueller on the reason why you're before the committee.
Madam Chair, hopefully the fiscal note you have in your packet, as Senator Ruud pointed out, the bill does roughly double the fines for OHV and snowmobiles. But even doubling of the fines are rarely collected. If you look on page 2 of the fiscal note under assumptions, it says civil citations are rarely issued by officers under the existing OHV authority. In fact, no civil citations have been issued in the past 3 calendar years. So the effect of doubling the fines in the grand scheme of things, as far as tracking new revenue, doesn't really register, but enough for even tracking additional revenue. And then also the addition of snowmobiles to this would not account for any measurable additional revenue. I think it's more the fact that the ability to assign a higher fine for some of these violations, it's more the policy side of it than a revenue thing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mueller. Any questions? Senator Marty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question for Mr. Meyer or Senator Ruud. Did we last increase these penalties when we were working on the ATV things together about 15 years ago? Is that when they went to the current level?
Senator Ruud.
Madam Chair and Senator Marty, that's probably true. I would say it's probably been that long ago. And I think raising the fines is more saying that there are consequences for what you do versus having our COs go out there and write a lot of tickets.
And Madam Chair,
Senator Marty.
on that point, yeah, I think as the fiscal note shows, it's not going to change revenue or anything, but knowing there's a higher fine, people are more apt to follow the regulation there. So yeah, it's probably been, this is sort of an inflation adjustment from then too.
Thank you, Senator Marty. Deputy Commissioner Meyer, welcome to the committee.
Madam Chair, members, good morning. For the record, Bob Meyer, Assistant Commissioner, Department of Natural Resources. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the opportunity this morning. And I want to say thank you to Senator Ruud for passing or working on this important bill. Trespass is an integral part of, I should say, staying on the trail is an integral part of keeping our snowmobiling and outdoor recreation traditions alive. This bill helps to emphasize that by increasing these penalties. We're seeing an increase in trail riding trespass in certain cases. Some people just budget for the $100 ticket if they get caught, and they go out and joyride around. So this will help re-emphasize the importance of staying on trail and hopefully re-educate some people as we teach them to learn with their pocketbook rather than their brain sometimes. So we do fully support this. We have been working with MinUSA and the author to make sure we have a good bill. So thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Commissioner. Appreciate it. I did meet with my Blizzard Snowmobile Club down in my district, and this trespassing issue is getting to be, is growing. And unfortunately, it may result in fewer property owners allowing trails to go through their properties. So they definitely conveyed that message to me. Senator Ruud, we're just checking to see if this should go on the consent calendar. I know it was sent out of civil law.
They just recommended it to pass. They didn't specify.
Oh, okay. Yeah, civil law didn't recommend general orders.
Madam Chair,
pass,
it was
but-
on general orders already, so,
Okay.
at one time.
I was just trying to do you a favor
Yeah.
and send it to consent calendar,
Okay.
if possible, but I am not sure. Can we do that? Yeah, we'll send it to consent calendar. Senator Ingebrigtsen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Meyer, I guess I've never heard of that. Snowmobilists are budgeting $100 to go out and trespass. That's not true, correct?
Assistant Commissioner.
Madam Chair, Senator Ingebrigtsen, I don't have any proof of that. It's anecdotal when you're riding with people to hear them say that. Snowmobiles are ATVers. It's a small, what I was trying to emphasize is the penalty is very small for some people compared to the other investments they have in their equipment. And I personally have seen trails rerouted this year because of trespass issues. So as Senator Rose and Madam Chair spoke of it, it's really important to make sure people understand these are voluntary trail segments. Landowners authorize or they allow the local clubs for very little money, if not only just a handshake, and they'll come do a little work on their property to allow that trail to go through. So making sure people are aware of the law and the law fits, the penalty fits the issue or the action is what I was trying to emphasize there.
Yeah, and I understand.
Senator Ingebrigtsen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I understand that. I understand the trespass law very well, and I know it can be a real, well, it can ruin it for everybody else. I mean, it just does. But I'm not understanding how you don't track these. So if you give them one and they don't seem to pay attention to that, the second violation is higher as well as the third. So are you tracking that internally with your computer system?
Assistant Commissioner.
Madam Chair, Senator Ingebrigtsen, yes, very regularly. We have a state-of-the-art records management system with our enforcement division where we can track warnings, first offenses, second offenses. So we are tracking those, and you can see that this would increase those first, second, and third offenses.
So
Senator Ingebrigtsen.
So it's a, thank you, Madam Chair. If it's a civil violation, how do you collect if they don't pay?
Assistant Commissioner.
Madam Chair, Senator, we would go through the court system to try to secure that.
You do that very often, Madam Chair.
Senator Ingebrigtsen.
Madam
Assistant
Chair,
Commissioner.
Senator Ingebrigtsen, it's not, it happens every once in a while. It just depends on the individual and the cases and the circumstances. Everybody has their right to appeal. So, but not often do they go that far.
Senator Ingebrigtsen.
Just one more, and I'm done. If the COs happen not to be there, the sheriff gets a complaint, he goes out, he arrests, he can actually charge for a regular trespass. Is that correct?
Assistant Commissioner.
Maybe Ben can help me with that. I don't know.
Madam Chair, Senator Ingebrigtsen, I believe that would be the case, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ingebrigtsen. I believe we have Senator Pratt and then Senator Lopez Franzen. No? Okay. Senator Lopez Franzen.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank Senator Ruud for bringing this bill forward. And as a member of MinUSA myself and a snowmobile driver, believe it or not, I own one and I really enjoy it. And I certainly support this bill. I think we've been talking about making snowmobiles safer and also a better environment for snowmobilers and following the rules and the law is part of that. And we want to make sure that all snowmobilers are following that law, and this is a bill in that effort. So we were briefed on it in our last event a few months ago, and certainly want to make sure that people understand that this is really trying to, protect rights of landowners and ensure that the sport continues to be viable. And a lot of landowners allow us to use their property, but when we see a no trespass zone, we definitely need to ensure that that is enforced. So thank you for bringing this bill forward, and I expect support for it. So I appreciate this discussion today.
Thank you, Senator Lopez Franzen. No other discussion. Senator Ruud, final comments.
Thank you, Senator Rose. And I think this is for the fiscal impact that snowmobiling has in the state of Minnesota, I think this is a real good bill going forward to say that there's consequences for those who don't obey the the rules. And I think that's a small minority of people, but we want to make sure that, when the snowmobiler goes through and he sees that great big field and says how wonderful that would be to make tracks in that field, and that's the farmer's winter wheat field and you've just ruined it, there need to be some consequences for that action, and they need to understand that that is not an allowable use of your snowmobile and to stay on the trails. So I would appreciate your support today.
Thank you, Senator Ruud. Senator Johnson, the consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that House File 2819 be recommended to pass and move to the consent calendar.
On that motion, members, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed, nay. Motion prevails. And the bill is sent to the consent calendar. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Senator Ruud.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And Mr. Mueller and Assistant Commissioner Meyer. And next we have Senator Howe, Senate File 1040. I assume the donuts are in the back? Are you a slow learner, Senator Howe, or what's the deal
I
here?
don't understand it. The bakery just didn't deliver. I don't understand.
Don't you have a bill up tomorrow, Senator Howe?
It's amazing. I think I've been here all week. I'll be here all week. So.
Yeah, you pretty much have. I think we'll have to see about tomorrow. I don't know. That's called extortion,
Well, because
All right.
I can't eat them, I just don't go near there. But I'll try to make a special trip.
Oh, there you go. Senate File 1040, Senator Howe.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair and members. This 1040 simply adds law enforcement supervisors unit to the list of 17 current supervisor groups represented in bargaining units under Chapter 179A. This was brought up by other law enforcement groups over the concern that state trooper supervisors are one of the only groups currently not allowed to collectively bargain with MMB through state contract negotiations. And basically, the reason this would just provide an opportunity to have a collective bargaining unit. It does not develop the bargaining unit. They'd still have to go through the process of forming a bargaining unit, so this doesn't guarantee that they're going to have one. But it does provide an opportunity for supervisors to collectively bargain. And we got to understand that law enforcement have unique concerns, and their needs are different than other bargaining units and other employee groups. This would provide for one bargaining unit instead of the troopers. The supervisors, troopers don't have a bargaining unit, but the other law enforcement supervisors are in 3 different bargaining units. So this could, if they decide to do this, they could end up, all the law enforcement supervisors could be in one bargaining unit. Additionally, I think it provides some protections that they don't have. We all know that the environment law enforcement have been operating in the last couple years are much, much different than they were before. And these supervisors are actually the people in charge of some of those when we're having some of that unrest out there. And they don't actually have a lot of protections when it would come to lawsuits or some of the other things that could happen to them. So, Madam Chair and members, that's the bill.
Thank you, Senator Howe. Any questions for Senator Howe? Senator Marty.
Thank you, Senator Howe. Madam Chair, Senator Howe, how many managerial between the troopers and BCA and COs and so on, how many managers are there that would be in this bargaining unit? And so in others, are there like 15 in one unit and 12 in another, and the troopers, I don't know how many managers they have. How many is this total? Is this 20 people or 200 people? Or?
Senator Howe.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Senator Marty. That's an excellent question. I don't actually have that. I know that I believe that there's 17 with the troopers, so if you know the other ones, we could do the addition, but I don't know what's in the other ones.
Okay. Senator Marty?
Yep.
No? Okay. Any further questions? All right. That was a quick stop. Senator Howe. Senator Ingebrigtsen.
Madam Chair, I move that Senate File number 1040 be passed and move to the, general orders.
On that motion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion prevails. The bill does pass and placed on general orders. Thank you, Senator Howe. See
Thank
tomorrow.
you, Madam Chair. How many donuts do I have to plan
You know,
for?
2 dozen is great, I'm just saying. Thank you, Senator Howe. There's a rule that Senator Bach told us, Senator Coleman, about donuts, first time in front of Finance Committee. We're trying to instill this. It's not working, but
Madam Chair,
yes, Senator Benson.
perhaps if for the previous 5 years it had been an expectation, but
That's right. This is my last year out. I'm trying to,
up the game.
yeah,
Yes, Madam
the
Chair.
game is right. Senator Coleman. Welcome to the committee. Your first time, Senator Coleman.
And donutless, I apologize.
You had a few things this morning before you got here, I'm sure.
Yes, Madam Chair, I opened my eyes, looked outside, and thought, why?
Yeah. At the right. I hope that didn't affect your commute. Senate File 2644 is before us, the lease levy authorization for transportation hub. We do have a fiscal note, but, well, please start, Senator Coleman. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Under current law, a school district may levy the costs of a leased facility if it is for instructional purposes. Eastern Carver County Schools requests special authority to allow the district to access a new space to update its pupil transportation hub. This bill authorizes the district to levy for the lease costs of a pupil transportation hub using lease levy authority if the district demonstrates to the MDE Commissioner's satisfaction that the pupil transportation hub will result in significant financial savings for the district and the district's overall lease levy remains below $212 per pupil unit. Eastern Carver County Schools bought its current bus facility in 2001. While the district has grown significantly since then, space at the bus garage has gotten increasingly tight and is no longer equipped to properly house or service the fleet. Coupled with $4.9 million in repairs needed to maintain the current property, it has become increasingly clear that a new location is necessary. The estimated cost of the project is $15 million, depending on land costs. The district will be using a comprehensive finance approach to limit tax impact to the district's taxpayers. And because the district would be within its current levy authority, there is a little state aid impact per the fiscal note.
Okay, thank you. Very
Thank you.
good. Senator Coleman, I believe Mr. Nauman. Mr. Nauman?
Madam Chair, I thought the authors indicated there would be little state aid impact. I don't think the fiscal note is scoring any effect. Maybe Ms. Hofer has something to offer here.
Even better.
Welcome, Ms. Hofer. Good to see you.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. There is no state aid or levy impact as a result of this bill. It would be within the district's existing levy authority.
Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. Any questions? Yes, Senator Kiffmeyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the question I have, when you use this levy bonding authority in this area, that means sometimes that portion of that levy authority isn't available for other needs of the school district.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the question for me is, will this harm your future ability to conduct the business of the school district by using up this portion of that levy authority? I understand it's within it, but I've seen other school districts sometimes use it for things like this.
Mm-hmm.
Later, they want to do an operating levy or they want to do something else, then they don't have that capacity, or the residents, the taxpayers of that area don't have the ability to do another one. So I just want to be very cautious about the total picture. Could you comment in regards to that?
Thank you, Senator Kiffmeyer. Ms. Hofer, I think I'll let you respond to this, and then Senator Coleman.
It was directed there, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Kiffmeyer. So the building lease levy is very specific in the authority that it grants. So it can only be used by the district to pay for leased facility costs that would be used for instructional purposes. So districts do still have access to a variety of other levy options that would grant them broader authority and uses.
Senator Kiffmeyer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that. I think my concern was for not necessarily the authority of the school district, but the capacity of the taxpayers to absorb, especially during a time of inflation, additional taxes. And so I just wanted to be careful, because I've known of others who've done some of these things and then later on. So I just want to be sure and be cautious for that. I'm going to vote for this. I'm going to support it. It's your request. It's your local district to do these things. I just want to note a word of caution about that. But thank you.
Thank you, Senator Kiffmeyer. And Senator Coleman, I see you have someone here, but in finance, we don't have public testimony. We just have testimony from the departments and agencies. So, yes. Any further questions? I don't see any. Final comments, Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members, and thank you, Senator Kiffmeyer, for that word. I have full faith in our school district and our school board members and our finance chair who's here in support today to really be good stewards of our taxpayer dollars. And I think this is one of the ways that they are being good stewards of our taxpayer dollars is rather than put millions of dollars into upgrading the current facility, using this special authority to find a new one to lease is how they are accomplishing that. So thank you for the consideration, members, and for the time today.
Thank you very much, Senator Coleman. Senator Johnson, would you like to make this motion?
You bet.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I move that Senate File 2644 be recommended to pass and move to
General orders.
General orders.
Okay, on that motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion prevails. The bill is passed and placed on general orders.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Coleman. Thank you, Ms. Hofer. With that, members, we actually just have one bill tomorrow, Senator Howe, and we'll be finishing up the auto part sales tax issue. I mentioned at one time we were going to have the stadium refinance bill, and it's not quite ready. So we will have hearings hopefully next week, and then it's going to be a strong push for finance after that. Any questions? Senator Marty, you good? Anybody else? Okay. With that, Senate Finance Committee is adjourned. We'll see you tomorrow.